but also with the large ITO companies as well as the own captives. And it just appears as if the days of having a long sustainable competitive advantage are long gone. I mean, we are talking, and the companies should start embracing the days of transient advantage, which is you pick up your own newer strategic initiatives, time and again, and prepare a portfolio of investments or advantages, whether it is embedded analytics, embedded platforms, embedded technologies, or what have you, which you are quick to adopt as well as equally rapid to abandon if the need be. So I think what really the organization, for a successful organization, needs is really a very, very innovative technology which needs to continually improve itself on and on. And that's the only way the organizations in today's VUCA environment can possibly survive.
From the telecom space and the infrastructure in telecom space, what are the big challenges that you face in a globalized economy?
Okay. Just to start with, there are very, very, bright aspects of the globalization, but definitely there are certainly some dark aspects also. Just to start off with, there are forex challenges, like, rupee is depreciating a lot nowadays. So if you see, rupee has depreciated by around 20% in last 6 months, and when you are operating in a globalized world, so a lot of forex fluctuations are there. That's one of the challenge you have to cope up with the forex fluctuation. So there is an uncertainty. Tomorrow, the dollar will increase or dollar will appreciate or depreciate. So that's one of the challenge. The second challenge I see in globalization is like different countries have their own norms, their own statutory requirements, like in terms of taxation, in terms of the inflow of the capital. So you have to follow the various norms. You have to be aware about the various norms, and you have to follow them in your business aspects as well as the financial aspects of the organization. So that's another challenge I foresee. The third challenge is like you have to be very much aware about the geographical demography of a particular country, and you have to align your business along with the requirement of the geography, the people requirement of that particular geography. So you have to be aware about that kind of aspect also for the growth of your business. So that's the kind of challenges I see in terms of the globalization which we are facing.
Okay. Mayank, let me get you in here. You represent a company which is one of the most successful global giants, GE. What are the challenges that you see right now, especially given the uncertainty that we are facing?
Yeah, so I think I agree with Vinay on, in my mind, I think I will bucketize them in 5 big challenges the way I would see it. Of course, from finance, I think we all talk about forex fluctuations. We see the India story, but I think if you look at top 50 currencies, the INR is actually 6th most volatile. If you see some other emerging markets like Indonesia, South Africa, they have been more volatile than India. So managing that volatility for other economies also is an important matter when you look at globalization. Regulatory challenge, clearly, I think that's one top priority. GE operates in Africa in almost 24 countries. Every single country has a different statutory regulations. To make sure you comply with each regulation, not just in letter but also in spirit, that remains a pretty important challenge, and you need to have the right talent of people to make sure. I would say the third piece from a business standpoint, and I think Vinay touched upon, is understanding the specific country. We are seeing a lot of growth in emerging markets. We see countries are modernized, they are thinking to set up their infrastructure, but they are lacking funding. So you need to adjust your product portfolio by giving the right technology, but also supplementing by financing by, let's say exams of the world or ECA agencies. And I would say the fourth big challenge in my mind is people and the processes. As you scale up and you go global, including countries like India and other regions, getting the right talent who knows the local operations, making sure you have the right balance between what you retain at headquarters, what you empower the regions, and remaining simple in terms of your processes. Of course, all of times, companies do err by creating too many controls, too many processes, but ideas remain simple. And I think the last piece in my mind would be technology.
Sure.
In a globalized world, there's a lot of exchange of information. So it's not only just retaining and protecting that information, but also enabling and making IT as an enabler for growth by having the right MIS, having simple but bright KPIs which can be monitored on a timely basis.
This is the new age algorithmic high-frequency trading-driven strategy.
A manufacturer
Sorry that we are breaking for you right now here. Finance Ministry is not going to levy any extra tax. Coal India is unable to assure maximum fuel supply. Welcome to the big story. I'm Vivek Law.
High performance delivered. It's how we help our clients succeed. 60,000 calls a day for New York City. Delivered. $7 billion in online sales for Marriott. Delivered. Around the world, in every industry, across consulting, technology, and outsourcing, we deliver. Accenture. High performance delivered.
Whenever I face some problems, not using force, but by true dialogue.
No goal is impossible.
We are entering into an age of transparency.
The next generation of Indian cricketer is going to come from the smaller towns and cities.
I would like to have the Oscars in India.
Listen to the voices that matter today to make tomorrow better at the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit.
I love the challenges. I love hurdles. I'm a restless guy. I need challenges, otherwise I'm not motivated.
Tony Fernandez is a very out there CEO. Is that the kind of CEO you would also like to be, or are you a more behind the scenes type person?
I'm definitely not more of a behind the scenes guy because
He's open about it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely open about it. Ultimately, I believe in that because the CEO, the buck stops with him or her.
Right.
Why do you have to be secretive about that?
Presented by Renault Duster. Drive the change.
The last few years have been tough for the Indian economy and business. Companies have faced challenges like never before.
Perhaps in uncertain times is a belief that you can just throw away strategy. It actually becomes a little bit more important.
Join me as I join the faculty of the world's most famous business school.
Privatization has become less urgent than, let's say, in the 1990s.
In a number of countries, family companies perform better.
Understand that adversity is opportunity.
To find the answers to the questions we face.
You mentor a lot of entrepreneurs. What's your advice to them?
Think very big, extremely big, but start very small. That works every single time.
Presented by GE Imagination at Work in association with Better Life, Better World, Panasonic.
Mina, let me come to you. One of the other flip sides of this has been that most MNCs in India have had a pretty rough patch with the taxman in India over the last year and a half, 2 years. The incidence of transfer pricing issues, a lot of the taxation issues have been very, very high. And it goes back to the point that we were raising that revenue maximization is a big issue with most governments at a time when economies are stressed out. There was a time when Nokia was saying we want to pull out of India. And you are a Nokia-owned company. So my sense is, my question to you is that have things improved with the new clarifications that have come or the new attempts to bring a safe harbor, for example, clause in transfer pricing, or is the stress on the ground as stark?
So I should say, like, stress is still there, like, the transfer pricing norms has been there. So, like, being a global company, you have to follow the transfer pricing norms. But despite of the fact that you are following up the transfer pricing norms, so you always remain at the radar of the taxman that, they will bring you under the scrutiny, they will bring you under the assessments. So you have to, massage their ego also, you have to satisfy them, despite of the fact that you have followed, all the statutory norms in terms of transfer pricing. So that challenge is still there, despite of the fact, a lot of clarifications are there, lot of circulars, lot of notifications are there, but the challenges are still there, and so we need to, come up with them.
Mayank, taxation and visa, these become the two barriers or the two, big tools that governments use to actually moderate exposures. What sense are you getting when you talk about India? Is there a little bit of disappointment around those two factors, especially in the taxation factor as far as India is concerned?
So I think at an overall level, I think there has been a short-term setback, I would say that. But I think the authorities understand. I think they are definitely looking at some of the best practices in other countries. So, like I think you touched upon on the safe harbor rules, I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. Of course, there is clearly an opportunity to keep on addressing it. But yes, I think for short term it does, bring little bit unclarity. But I think government is acknowledging it, and I think there is definitely a progression on that. On visa, I think on that India has been definitely improving. There has been increased list of on visa arrivals for specific countries. So I think overall India is getting there, but I think we have a journey to go at the with the best class in the world.
Okay. Aksh, going out is becoming even more difficult because both the US and UK have made visa rules very stringent, and that hurts a lot of BPO companies and IT companies. What's the sense that you're getting? Because there's been hardcore lobbying happening from NASSCOM to control that, or to get American senators to go against that. But what's the sense you're getting?
Yes, so I think that's a common issue which most of the IT companies are talking about, and that's a pain that most of them are going through. For us, for EXL as such, fortunately, we have a large part of population which is in US as own residents and and citizens of US. So we at this point in time are not facing that issue at all. Okay, but when I talk to my peer in the same industry, whether it is a Wipro or HCL or TCS for that matter, all of them have this big issue. In fact, this can actually become a game changer for them. So rather than doing services onshore and taking people from India, they will have to hire more and more onshore, which is going to disrupt the entire cost equation. And whether the outsourcing, how much is the arbitrage that remains to be leveraged remains. So these are again some of the steps which which US is taking in order to improve the economy and increase some amount of funding for them.
So there is going to be a huge cost ramification of this protection.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Vinay, what's also interesting is that we spoke about competition and how in this VUCA environment your temporary strategic advantages could actually have a very short shelf life. So you have to constantly innovate and be one step ahead of competition. In your case, you face competition from one of the most aggressive players, which is Chinese manufacturers. What are the lessons that one can learn from them? Because they have been able to permeate into the Indian marketplace and almost colonize huge markets like China. So are there lessons that you can learn from your Chinese competitors?
Yes, certainly means, you have a very valid point, like, a lot of competition is there due to this globalization, a lot of FDI is flowing to India as well as to other countries. And the local players, they have to, face a lot of competition from the international players. In terms of like, the various telecom equipments, like, China is a provider of the telecom equipments at a low cost, so definitely there is a huge competition from there. So like, to overcome that competition is like definitely they must be using, the better technology in terms of production of those equipments. So definitely India has to cope up and India has to come up with the better technology so that they can also produce the product at the lower cost so that to overcome that competition.
But that also throws up a different kind of challenge, Vinay, which is also something that you face on the manufacturing side, you face on the people side, and that is really the lack of infrastructure in India. As Indian companies compete with global peers or global competitors, the biggest constraint seems to be the fact that we can't run because of the infrastructure backbone that we have. A lot of the scalability and low-cost advantage China has comes from the back end. So is that a big sore point for manufacturers like you here?
Yeah, that is a big sore point. Like, like you can say there is a brain drain. Like, the people from India, they migrate to different countries out of India. So definitely, the brain is, migrating from India. So definitely, that's a soaring point. Like, despite of the fact that, a good education country, India is a good education country. So we are not able to cope up with, the kind of challenges in terms of the technology which we are facing up. So definitely that is required, and India has to come up to face that kind of challenges.
How
How do your money needs change if you are single vis-a-vis if you are married?
In a two-income household, there is economies of scale. Threshold of an emergency fund, which is about 6 months, is there. You need a robust medical cover, and you need a retirement fund. Especially if you're single, you need a retirement fund which you are looking after your own future, and there's no spouse to fall back on.
Presented by BSE Investors Protection Fund in association with Edelweiss.
Whenever I face some problems, not using force, but by true dialogue.
No goal is impossible.
We are entering into an age of transparency.
The next generation of Indian cricketer is going to come from the smaller towns and cities.
I would like to have the Oscars in India.
Listen to the voices that matter today to make tomorrow better at the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit.
It's the biggest auto event of the year.
And it's you who decides India's most preferred car and bike of the year.
It's time to cast your vote.
Reliance General Insurance presents Bloomberg TV India Autocar India Viewers' Choice Awards 2013-14. To vote for your favorite car or bike, SMS Autocar, space your favorite car or bike name to 55454 or log on to btvin.com/autocar awards. And you could win a chance to present the award live on TV and other exciting prizes.
Presented by Reliance General Insurance, protecting what you value. Powered by Mobile One. Mobile One brings you closer to the action.
How is the picture really on the ground in rural India?
The rural economy is doing much better than the urban economy. The next generation, which is of rural India, is not the same rural India, the dhoti-clad kids anymore.
The record of UPA 2 is really poor compared to its record in the first innings.
We definitely wanted to deliver much, much more. It's been disappointing for all of us as well. There's no point posturing to something that's not real.
You're going to go together with the Congress because there have been reports that you may just go it alone this time.
There have been some issues, undoubtedly. It's like a marriage. Everything your spouse does, you don't necessarily always approve or like. So just because you flag it, that doesn't mean there's trouble in paradise.
If you're into sports, we're telling you what the luxury brands have to offer this season. The latest from the world of tech, and which one's better, a tablet or the e-reader. And from the world of couture, it's the biggest designers and their love for design that takes them beyond the world of couture.
For me, my ego is not much larger than, let's say, what I bring to the table. I don't necessarily want to get the Oscar. I'm happy to see my product on the person getting the Oscar.
In your case, of course, in the business process outsourcing industry, you're facing increasing competition from Eastern Europe, from the Philippines, etc. Does that put added costs, and is that a disadvantage for Indian companies as you compete in the global marketplace?
Yeah, I think infrastructure has been an issue, Minnie, and over a period of time, so government, NASSCOM has been lobbying for for this for a while. There have been changes also which have been brought about. So so there have been changes in terms of tax ops and SEZs, and STPI has been given in past. But the problem is, because of there is no infrastructure, the rules are so stringent. The SEZs will be miles outside of the city, and the entire transport cost, for example, is going to eat away the entire benefit on the taxation front that you may possibly get. And then the availability of talent. If it's a data entry work, if it's a low routine work, availability of talent is not an issue. But if you really have to upscale yourself and do work in terms of high value processes, there is real dearth of talent and the domain expertise. So what we do at EXL, we are having various academies that we are running in-house. We are running an insurance academy, we are running a travel and transport academy, we are running a utilities academy and a languages academy. These academies are in association with various other certifying bodies where we kind of try and produce those domain experts to be able to upscale and have that that talented population. But
sure. But as a CFO, my question to you is that how do you balance the cost of running a business and growing a business with the limitations on the revenue front during a slowdown?
So I think it has to be very, very balanced between agility and absorption. These are the two broad parts of the operating strategy or style that I would call it. When I talk of agility, I mean we have to stay nimble, we have to stay focused on our business model, seize every opportunity, fly like a butterfly and sting like a bee, and and keep our costs variable as much as possible and resources variable as much as possible, so that at any point in time we can move resources from a low priority area to a higher priority and a higher opportunity area. And on the absorption side, I think we are trying to have our low fixed costs, trying to manage a war chest of cash to be able to to sustain and seize opportunities at the real point in time. We are trying to invest in our second layer of leadership, again to.
And all of this is very relevant to the CFO as well, right? I mean, this is not something that is done in the strategy room by the CEO. This is something which is closely done with the CFO.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and at the end of the day, that's where the balancing act comes in. So, we have to make sure that there is the right amount of funding which is there. We're looking at ways and means for self-funding these investments. So, we need to change the the business model. You need to not do what's been done in the past. You need to innovate your internal processes, do more with less. The money that you save, reinvest, plow it back in the business. Innovate and and get those cutting edge technologies.
Mayank, as a representative of GE, again coming back to the problems that a big organization like GE has, to my mind it's really the inverse of this. Yours is the ability to be nimble with the size and scale that GE has. As a CFO, what's the biggest challenge there?
Yeah. So let me actually give a positive example as well. I think we've been talking about challenges, but let me just try to give a spin to this. So look, GE has been an example. So let's take a case of a healthcare business, and it's a case of a reverse innovation. So India has a problem of early birth infant mortality rate. It has one of the highest infant mortality rates. What we found that the equipment, which is basically a baby incubator or warmer, was very expensive globally. Our engineers in India found out a solution and actually prepared a product which was 70% cheaper than the global average. And actually that is helping solve the high infant mortality rate, not just in India, but we are using that platform to actually export to 80 countries and solving similar problems in other countries. So I think we have to figure out remaining optimist. I think we had seen the previous sessions. I think there has to be optimism and leverage whatever is available in the situation and using that base to export globally. So I think that has been our big area. Now to your point on remaining simple and nimble, I think that has been, or that is one of the biggest challenges for big companies. As you grow, you get global, you enter every country. You need to remain compliant, not just in letter but also in spirit. So we end up as CFO setting up a lot of process controls. You want to make sure then that our audit hat and or our controllership hats, we try to devise super strong procedures, but they end up becoming a strain on the overall organization. There can be situations where a simple salesperson trying to solve customer problem may need 1 month or couple of months to close a simple deal. So as our job, we need to make sure we are constantly simplifying it, making it still nimble, and then leveraging concept of shared services today. Because what we are seeing is 80% of the processes and problems are similar. So to that extent, you can actually define global standards which can be applied at enterprise level. Of course, there will be 15-20% problem that will remain by each process, by each country. That needs to be customized, but you will be able to solve 80%, and that's one of the key to remain simple and relevant for the country.
While simplicity is good in good times, does complexity and the matrix system help in bad times when the cookie crumbles? And that's what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, Max. Does the matrix system kind of negate the risk in the system?
Yeah, so I think we live in a matrix world, and that definitely applies in a multinational environment where, if I look at, a particular, role, you would be reporting to your region, you would be reporting to your function, you will be reporting to your headquarters. So what matrix system works is gives you, you can take matrix world to either side. Now, I think the smart thing remains to leverage the best out of it. So you can leverage the power of one company by getting the best out of it. And matrix system pushes you to make sure you remain, in the right things. You bounce your thoughts with everybody, and you act as a check and balance with the headquarters as well as local region. Because matrix system definitely helps you to get the attention you need. If you are sitting in a region, in a country, you know the best with the customer. So we need to be very smart about how do we use metric system, because if you don't do it, that may definitely bounce back on you.
I think the CFO is essentially someone who is driving a lot of change in their organizations. They are the catalyst to drive innovation. If the CFO is inclined, a lot of change and best practices can be introduced because he is the gatekeeper to the company. He is the one who controls the money. He is the one who also guides the management, and so I think the evolving role of the CFO is really in that direction. As was discussed during the course of the day today, there's fluctuating government policy. There is geopolitical